Ayanna Green was a 26-year-old graphic designer, brimming with dreams and determination. She had spent months searching for better career opportunities, and today she was flying to Los Angeles for an interview that could change her life. Ayanna wore her favorite yellow cardigan, a symbol of optimism and hope, and carried a small leather bag containing essentials and a book titled Dare to Dream. At the airport, the energy was a mix of excitement and chaos as passengers prepared for their journeys. Ayanna checked in smoothly, made her way through security, and boarded Horizon Airlines Flight 287 with a nervous but excited heart. As she stepped into the plane, her eyes scanned the cabin. Standing near the entrance was Clara Williams, a seasoned flight attendant in her late 40s. Clara carried herself with an air of authority, her sharp eyes darting around to ensure everything was in perfect order. While her efficiency was respected by her peers, passengers often found her demeanor cold and intimidating. As Ayanna approached her seat, she gave Clara a polite smile. Clara, barely glancing at her, gave a curt nod. Ayanna shrugged off the lack of warmth and made her way to her assigned spot near the window at the back of the plane. She slid her bag under the seat in front of her, took out her book, and settled in, excited for the journey ahead. As the last passengers boarded, Clara began her rounds, meticulously checking that everything was in compliance with airline regulations. When she reached Ayanna's row, she immediately noticed the bag sticking out slightly from under the seat. Clara frowned. "Ma'am," she said sharply, "your bag needs to be completely under the seat in front of you." Startled by the sudden tone, Ayanna looked up and then down at her bag. "Oh, I thought it was okay there. Let me fix it." She reached to adjust the bag, but before she could, Clara grabbed it and shoved it into the overhead compartment. Ayanna's smile faded. "Thank you," she said softly, though she felt embarrassed by the public display. Clara, unfazed, moved on to the next row. Ayanna took a deep breath and reminded herself to focus on the opportunity awaiting her in Los Angeles. But a sense of unease lingered as she noticed a few passengers glancing at her, their expressions a mix of curiosity and discomfort. As the flight prepared for takeoff, Clara returned to Ayanna's row for another inspection. Her sharp eyes scanned Ayanna's seatbelt, and she frowned again. "Ma'am, your seatbelt isn't fastened properly," Clara announced loudly. Ayanna glanced down, confused. The belt was securely fastened. She looked up at Clara. "It's fastened correctly." Clara's tone grew firmer. "Ma'am, I'm not here to argue. Please cooperate." Nearby passengers began to turn their heads, sensing tension. Ayanna, trying to stay calm, said, "I'm not arguing. I'm just saying it's fastened." A middle-aged man a few rows ahead turned around and muttered, "Some people just like to make things difficult." Ayanna felt her cheeks flush, but kept her composure. "I'm following the instructions. I'm not causing any problems." Clara, however, felt her authority being challenged. Frustrated, she stepped away and contacted the captain, reporting Ayanna as a disruptive passenger. Moments later, security personnel boarded the plane, their presence causing a ripple of murmurs among the passengers. "Miss," one of the officers said, "we've been asked to escort you off the flight." Ayanna's eyes widened in shock. "What? I haven't done anything wrong. Please, ask the other passengers." Clara crossed her arms, her expression resolute. "This is a safety matter. You need to leave." Humiliated and fighting back tears, Ayanna gathered her belongings and walked down the aisle, her head held high despite the stares and whispers from the other passengers. As Ayanna entered the terminal, her emotions boiled over. She sat down on a bench, tears streaming down her face, feeling the weight of injustice. Just then, a woman approached her. "I saw everything," the woman said. "You didn't deserve that." The woman introduced herself as Rachel, a social media influencer with a large following. She encouraged Ayanna to share her story, assuring her that people needed to hear about what had happened. Though hesitant, Ayanna agreed, realizing this could be an opportunity to stand up not just for herself, but for others who had experienced similar treatment. What began as a routine flight had now set the stage for a fight for justice. After being escorted off the plane, Ayanna hesitated but decided to follow Rachel's advice. She uploaded a detailed post on her social media account describing the incident, including how Clara had singled her out and exaggerated her behavior. She wrote about the embarrassment she faced and how it felt like an unfair abuse of power. Rachel, who had captured parts of the incident on video, uploaded the clips to her own platforms. She tagged Ayanna and wrote, "We need to stand against discrimination and bullying, especially in public spaces. Ayanna deserves justice." What started as a few supportive comments quickly turned into a flood of reactions. By the next morning, the video had gone viral, with thousands of people commenting, sharing, and expressing outrage over how Ayanna had been treated. Many pointed out the pattern of implicit biases people like Clara perpetuated in professional spaces. Ayanna woke up to hundreds of notifications. People from all over the world were reaching out to her, offering support and sharing similar experiences. News outlets began contacting her for interviews. Overwhelmed but encouraged by the support, Ayanna realized that this incident could become a turning point, not just for her, but for others facing unjust treatment. Horizon Airlines management was quick to notice the social media storm. The video and Ayanna's account of the event were trending on multiple platforms, with hashtags like #JusticeForAyanna and #AirlineAccountability gaining traction. The company's PR team scrambled to issue a statement. "We at Horizon Airlines take all customer concerns seriously. We are currently investigating the incident to ensure that our policies and staff uphold the highest standards of respect and professionalism," the statement read. However, the public wasn't satisfied with the vague response. Comment sections exploded with demands for a more substantial action plan. Some customers vowed to boycott the airline until accountability was demonstrated. Ayanna, meanwhile, was invited to a popular daytime talk show to share her story. During the interview, she eloquently described her experience, emphasizing that her goal wasn't to attack the airline but to spark a conversation about fairness, accountability, and the importance of treating people with respect. The interview resonated with millions of viewers. Ayanna's composure, intelligence, and determination earned her widespread admiration. Overnight, she became a voice for those who had felt voiceless in the face of authority. Inside the airline, the backlash was creating tension among the staff. Clara, the flight attendant at the center of the controversy, was called into a meeting with HR and senior management. She maintained that her actions were purely procedural and had no personal bias. "I was following the safety protocol," Clara insisted. She wasn't complying. The management team, however, had reviewed passenger statements and footage from the incident. The evidence painted a different picture. "Clara," said one of the HR managers, "while safety is paramount, it's clear that your tone and approach escalated the situation unnecessarily. Several passengers noted that you seemed overly aggressive toward Miss Green." Clara was placed on administrative leave, pending the outcome of the investigation. Meanwhile, employees across the airline industry were debating the incident. Some supported Clara, arguing that flight attendants often face difficult passengers and are under immense pressure. Others felt her behavior crossed a line and was indicative of a deeper problem within customer service training. Ayanna, unaware of Clara's internal struggles, continued to focus on her newfound platform. She collaborated with organizations advocating for racial and social equality, using her story as an example of why these conversations mattered. Behind the scenes, Clara began to reflect on the incident. As she read articles and watched interviews with Ayanna, she began to question her own biases and actions. For the first time, she wondered if she had truly been fair, or if she had let her own prejudices dictate her behavior. As Ayanna's story continued to gain traction, the public pressure on Horizon Airlines escalated. Major news outlets picked up the story, with headlines like "Passenger Unfairly Kicked Off Plane Sparks National Debate on Bias." Social media exploded with personal accounts from others who had faced similar situations in public spaces, particularly within the airline industry. Ayanna's inbox was flooded with messages from supporters, activists, and organizations that wanted to collaborate. Among them was a civil rights attorney, Monica Alvarez, who offered to represent Ayanna pro bono. Monica believed the case wasn't just about Ayanna, but about addressing systemic issues of discrimination and accountability in customer service. Reluctant at first, Ayanna eventually agreed to pursue legal action against Horizon Airlines. "This isn't about revenge," Ayanna told Monica during their first meeting. "It's about making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." Meanwhile, Ayanna's presence online grew. Her candid, heartfelt posts resonated with millions, and she began using her platform to advocate for fair treatment, equality, and respect across industries. She also spoke openly about the emotional toll the incident had taken, earning admiration for her bravery and authenticity. On administrative leave, Clara found herself grappling with emotions she had long buried. The backlash she faced was immense. Her name had been leaked online, and she became a target for angry messages and public scrutiny. While part of her wanted to blame Ayanna for the upheaval, a deeper part of her knew she was also at fault. One night, Clara sat in her small apartment, scrolling through Ayanna's social media posts. She saw the grace with which Ayanna handled the overwhelming attention, her focus on the bigger picture rather than personal vendettas. Clara felt a pang of guilt. The airline sent Clara to a mandatory training program focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Initially resistant, Clara found herself uncomfortably confronted with her own biases. The facilitators encouraged participants to reflect on their upbringing, societal conditioning, and moments where unconscious prejudice may have influenced their actions. By the end of the program, Clara wasn't the same person. She realized her treatment of Ayanna wasn't just about enforcing rules. It was about how she had perceived Ayanna, a young black woman, and how those perceptions had shaped her responses. As Ayanna prepared for the legal proceedings, Horizon Airlines made an unexpected announcement. They publicly apologized to Ayanna and committed to a full review of their training programs and policies. "We recognize that what happened to Miss Green was unacceptable," the statement read. "We are implementing new measures to ensure all passengers are treated with dignity and respect." The apology was a victory, but Ayanna wasn't ready to stop there. "Words are a good start," she told Monica, "but actions are what matter." Horizon Airlines proposed a settlement to Ayanna, hoping to resolve the matter without going to court. While the offer was generous, Ayanna and Monica saw an opportunity to push for meaningful change. They negotiated terms that included mandatory diversity training for all employees, the establishment of an oversight committee to address passenger complaints, and a public acknowledgement of systemic issues within the airline industry. The settlement became a landmark case, praised by activists and industry leaders alike. Ayanna's courage and persistence had not only brought her personal justice, but had also sparked a movement for accountability and reform. Clara, watching the news from her living room, felt both shame and inspiration. She reached out to Monica, expressing her desire to meet Ayanna and apologize in person. At first, Monica hesitated to bring the request to Ayanna, unsure of how she would react. To Monica's surprise, Ayanna agreed. "If she's genuine, I'm willing to hear her out," Ayanna said. "This isn't about creating enemies, it's about change." The meeting was set, marking a pivotal moment that would shape the next chapters of Ayanna and Clara's lives. The day Clara and Ayanna were set to meet was filled with nervous anticipation. Ayanna arrived at the neutral meeting spot, a private room in a community center, with Monica by her side. Clara was already there, looking visibly anxious, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched a folder of notes she'd prepared. When Ayanna entered the room, Clara immediately stood up. "Thank you for agreeing to meet me," Clara began, her voice unsteady. "I've spent the past few weeks reflecting on my actions, and I realize now how deeply wrong I was." Ayanna remained composed, nodding for Clara to continue. Clara took a deep breath. "At the time, I thought I was just doing my job. But now, I see that I let my assumptions and biases influence my actions. I treated you unfairly, and for that, I am truly sorry." The sincerity in Clara's voice surprised Ayanna. She could see the genuine remorse etched on Clara's face. Clara went on to explain how the diversity training had opened her eyes, and how she was committed to being a better person and professional moving forward. "I don't expect forgiveness," Clara concluded. but I needed to say this to you face to face. I'm so sorry for the pain I caused." Ayanna took a moment to process Clara's words. "Thank you for saying that," she replied. "I appreciate your apology, and I hope this experience has taught you something valuable, not just for yourself, but for everyone you interact with." The meeting ended on a hopeful note. While Ayanna didn't fully forgive Clara, she respected her courage in owning up to her mistakes. The meeting with Ayanna marked a turning point for Clara. Determined to make amends beyond words, she decided to use her experience as a catalyst for change. She started volunteering with organizations that focused on combating workplace discrimination and bias, sharing her story as a cautionary tale. Clara also returned to Horizon Airlines after her administrative leave, but this time with a different mindset. She advocated for more comprehensive training programs for staff, becoming an internal champion for inclusivity and fairness. Her colleagues noticed the change in her demeanor. Clara, once known for her rigid and sometimes dismissive attitude, was now approachable and empathetic. Meanwhile, Ayanna continued her advocacy work. She partnered with nonprofits to create resources for people who had experienced similar injustices, providing them with tools to navigate these challenges and seek accountability. Her work earned her recognition from influential figures, and she was invited to speak at conferences and events across the country. Under public scrutiny, Horizon Airlines began implementing the changes Ayanna and Monica had negotiated. The mandatory diversity training for employees became a cornerstone of the company's reform efforts. They also launched a new passenger relations initiative, ensuring complaints were addressed promptly and transparently. Ayanna's settlement funds were used to establish a scholarship program for aspiring young professionals from marginalized communities who wanted to enter the aviation industry. The program aimed to diversify the field and break down barriers for underrepresented groups. One of the most significant changes was the creation of a passenger advisory board, which included representatives from diverse backgrounds. Ayanna was invited to join the board as a consultant, ensuring that the voices of passengers were heard at the highest levels of the airline's operations. The airline's CEO personally thanked Ayanna during a public event, acknowledging her bravery and resilience. "Your courage has inspired us to be better," the CEO said. "We are committed to ensuring that no one else experiences what you went through." Ayanna's journey was far from over, but as she stood on the stage, receiving a standing ovation, she felt a profound sense of purpose. Her story had become a beacon of hope, proving that even in the face of injustice, one voice could ignite meaningful change. Ayanna's activism began to have far-reaching effects beyond her own case. Her growing platform inspired countless others to share their stories of injustice in various industries. Hashtags like #EqualTreatmentForAll and #PassengersMatter trended globally, leading to a wave of accountability. Several airlines faced public scrutiny as more passengers came forward with similar experiences. Meanwhile, Ayanna balanced her advocacy work with her personal life. She often reflected on how one moment of adversity had catapulted her into a new purpose. Though the journey was exhausting, the letters of gratitude and stories of triumph from those she had inspired kept her going. Ayanna's social media presence became a hub for advocacy and education. She hosted live sessions discussing systemic issues in customer service, workplace discrimination, and the importance of accountability. Her ability to speak from personal experience resonated deeply, making her a relatable and trusted voice. Clara, too, found herself touched by Ayanna's impact. She started sharing Ayanna's posts with her colleagues and even spoke at internal company events about her transformation. Clara's vulnerability inspired others to confront their biases and take responsibility for their actions, creating a ripple effect within Horizon Airlines. Clara's efforts to make amends didn't go unnoticed. Her colleagues admired her courage in admitting her mistakes and her determination to grow. One day, during a staff meeting, Clara shared her story with a room full of flight attendants and ground staff. "I made a terrible mistake, one that could have been avoided if I had taken the time to reflect on my own biases," Clara admitted. "But I'm here to ensure none of us repeats that mistake. It's not just about following the rules. It's about treating every person with respect and dignity." Her words sparked a candid discussion among the staff. Stories of moments where bias might have influenced decisions came pouring out, creating a space for honest dialogue and growth. The airline's leadership praised Clara for her bravery and began working on more robust internal policies to address these issues. Clara also joined Ayanna's scholarship initiative, contributing a portion of her own salary to support the program. While she knew she couldn't undo the harm she'd caused, she hoped her efforts would prevent future injustices. Ayanna's tireless work culminated in an invitation to a prestigious conference on diversity and inclusion in Washington, D.C. The event brought together leaders from various industries, policymakers, and activists to discuss actionable solutions to systemic discrimination. Ayanna stood on the stage, a powerful and poised figure. She shared her journey with the audience, from the humiliating incident on the plane to the changes it had inspired. "What happened to me was not unique," Ayanna said. "But together, we've proven that change is possible when we hold systems accountable and refuse to stay silent." Her speech received a standing ovation. Among the attendees was the CEO of Horizon Airlines, who later approached Ayanna with a handshake and a heartfelt acknowledgement of her influence on the company's transformation. Meanwhile, Clara watched the conference online, tears streaming down her face as she saw Ayanna's triumph. It wasn't just Ayanna's story anymore. It was a story of collective growth, of courage in the face of adversity, and of the power of redemption. Ayanna felt a sense of fulfillment. Her journey had transformed her pain into purpose, proving that even the smallest voices could spark monumental change. Both Ayanna and Clara had come a long way, and while their paths had started on opposing sides, they now intersected in their shared commitment to a fairer, more just world. After the conference, Ayanna returned home to find her advocacy work busier than ever. Requests for interviews, collaborations, and speaking engagements poured in. While Ayanna was grateful, the pace was overwhelming. She leaned on Monica, her best friend and unofficial manager, to help her navigate this new chapter. "Your voice is making waves, Ayanna," Monica said one evening as they reviewed requests. "But don't forget to take care of yourself. Change happens over time, not overnight." Ayanna nodded, realizing she needed balance. She began delegating tasks to a growing team of volunteers, many of whom had been inspired by her story. One volunteer, a young woman named Lila, shared how Ayanna's courage had given her the strength to speak out against discrimination in her workplace. Meanwhile, Clara continued her personal and professional redemption arc. She reached out to Ayanna with an idea for collaboration. In her email, Clara wrote, "Dear Ayanna, I've been reflecting deeply on the changes we've both been working toward. I'd like to propose a joint initiative, a campaign aimed at addressing biases in customer service industries. I believe our combined efforts could have a greater impact. Let me know if you're open to discussing this further." Ayanna hesitated at first, unsure if she was ready to partner with Clara. After discussing it with Monica, she decided to give Clara a chance. This could show people that growth and accountability are possible, Monica reasoned. Their collaboration began tentatively, but soon evolved into something powerful. The campaign, titled Fair Skies for All, aimed to create awareness about bias in customer service and provide tools for businesses to foster inclusivity. Ayanna and Clara co-hosted workshops, with Ayanna speaking from the perspective of those affected and Clara sharing her journey of learning and change. The first workshop was held in New York City, with attendees ranging from airline executives to frontline employees. Clara opened the session with a heartfelt confession about her past mistakes. "I used to think I was doing my job correctly," she admitted, "but I wasn't seeing the whole picture. It took a wake-up call to realize the harm I caused, and I'm here to make sure others don't repeat my mistakes." Ayanna followed, sharing her story with grace and clarity. The room was captivated, and by the end of the session, the audience gave them a standing ovation. The campaign gained momentum, with major companies signing on to implement the program. Media outlets praised the partnership as a beacon of hope in a divided world. Two women from opposite sides of an incident are now leading the charge for change, one article read. While the campaign brought public acclaim, Ayanna and Clara's journey was deeply personal. During one of their travel sessions, they had a candid conversation over dinner. "Do you ever regret working with me?" Clara asked, her voice tinged with vulnerability. Ayanna paused, then shook her head. At first, I wasn't sure if I could, but seeing how committed you are to change has shown me that people can grow. It's not about erasing the past, but about learning from it. For Clara, hearing those words was a relief. She had spent months grappling with guilt and doubt, unsure if her efforts were enough. Ayanna's affirmation gave her the strength to keep pushing forward. Ayanna, on the other hand, found herself letting go of the last remnants of anger she had held on to. Working alongside Clara allowed her to see the humanity in someone who had wronged her. It didn't excuse what had happened, but it gave her peace. As the campaign continued, Ayanna and Clara received invitations to speak at global conferences, becoming symbols of reconciliation and progress. They weren't just advocating for change, they were living proof that change was possible. Their partnership became an example for others, inspiring industries to reflect on their practices and strive for inclusivity. Through their combined efforts, they turned a painful incident into a catalyst for widespread transformation. As Ayanna and Clara's campaign, Fair Skies for All, continued to gain traction, their work was recognized on a global scale. They were invited to the United Nations to speak at an annual forum focused on combating systemic inequality. It was an opportunity neither had anticipated, and the weight of the moment wasn't lost on them. The day of the event was electric. Representatives from various nations, media outlets, and activists filled the Grand Hall. Ayanna stepped up to the podium, her voice steady yet passionate. "This is not just about airlines or customer service industries," she began. "It's about a deeper issue, a culture of bias that pervades every aspect of society. What happened to me could happen to anyone, but it doesn't have to. Change begins when we acknowledge the problem and commit to doing better." Clara followed, sharing her transformation story. She addressed the audience with humility, saying, "I am not proud of who I was, but I am proud of who I am becoming. This journey has taught me that accountability is not a punishment. It's an opportunity for growth. If I can change, anyone can." Their speeches were met with resounding applause, and the forum's organizers honored them with an award for their outstanding contributions to equality and justice. The recognition solidified their work's impact and opened doors for more partnerships and initiatives. Back home, Ayanna and Clara reflected on their journey. They had come a long way from the initial incident that had brought them together. Their relationship had transformed from adversarial to one of mutual respect and camaraderie. During a quiet evening, Clara visited Ayanna's home for dinner. They sat on the patio, watching the sunset. "You know, I never thought I'd find peace after what happened," Ayanna admitted. "But working with you has been healing in ways I didn't expect." Clara nodded. "And I never imagined I'd be here, sitting with someone I once hurt so deeply. It's humbling, Ayanna. You've taught me more than I could ever express." Their bond had become a symbol of what could happen when people chose accountability and forgiveness over resentment and avoidance. As their campaign expanded, Ayanna and Clara launched a mentorship program aimed at empowering young professionals to become advocates for fairness in their respective fields. They traveled to schools, universities, and community centers, sharing their story and encouraging others to take a stand against injustice. One event at a local high school stood out. A young girl named Elise approached Ayanna after their talk, her eyes filled with tears. "Your story gave me the courage to speak up," Elise said. "I've been dealing with bullying because of my background, but now I know I deserve better." Ayanna hugged her, deeply moved. These moments reminded her why she had embarked on this journey. Clara also found herself inspired by the younger generation. Seeing their determination and fresh ideas reignited her passion for advocacy. She realized that her mistakes didn't define her. They were a stepping stone to becoming a better person. As their work continued to flourish, Ayanna and Clara reached a turning point. They had built a movement that no longer depended solely on them. Their team of volunteers and advocates had grown into a full-fledged organization with leaders in multiple countries. Ayanna decided it was time to focus on her personal life. The demands of the campaign had been rewarding but exhausting. She wanted to reconnect with her family, pursue her love of writing, and perhaps even start a memoir about her journey. Clara, 2, considered stepping back from the spotlight. She wanted to dedicate more time to training new advocates and consulting for companies eager to implement inclusive practices. Before transitioning into these new roles, they held a grand summit to celebrate the progress of Fair Skies for All. The event was a powerful reminder of how far they'd come. Speakers shared stories of transformation, and attendees reflected on how the campaign had inspired change in their own lives. As Ayanna and Clara stood on the stage, side by side, they felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. They had turned a moment of adversity into a movement for justice, and their journey had proven that even the smallest actions could lead to monumental change. When the summit ended, Ayanna and Clara embraced, both knowing this was the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Their work had planted seeds of change that would continue to grow long after their direct involvement. Together, they had shown the world that growth, reconciliation, and progress were possible, even in the face of the most challenging circumstances. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more delightful story.